Hi, this is Michael Waits recording live from the Singapore FinTech Festival 2024. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Insurance for the New Possible, where we discussed the most innovative ideas in FinTech. We are joined today by Ramesh Sankar, Group Head of Product Management, Corporate and SME Banking at DBS. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure coming to SFF. The energy is brilliant, the innovation space is huge, so I'm always looking forward to this every year. So
I love coming here as well. You can feel the energy though around you, right?
Absolutely. As I was walking in, it was really exciting to see the number of booths, the activity in the booths. So very glad to be here.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Before we get into kind of the main part of this, right, let's talk a little bit about SMEs and maybe their impact, their size on the regional economy in Southeast Asia.
Sure. I think SMEs form a huge part of the economy. I mean, what we don't realize is that in a place like Singapore, over 90% of the economy is driven by SMEs.
Right.
And if you look at it from various angles, whether it is the space of employment opportunities or in the space of innovation, SMEs are in the forefront. So it is very important, and this is true across the markets that we operate in. It's important that we are there for them and help them grow the business along with us.
Absolutely. Look, I love this term small, medium-sized business. We run one, right? But you're right. The impact that they have on the overall economy in the region, I think is much larger than people understand. And that's why I love talking about this topic. So I want more people to understand this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's jump in. As the role of these SMEs continues to grow, what strategies can DBS employ to make sure that their product offerings meet their unique needs, but while also staying profitability and contributing to the bottom line?
So I think, like I said, economies are driven from an SME persona basis. A lot of companies contribute to that.
Right.
So it's important that our strategy is aligned, and we are very supportive in this whole cause of driving the business together and growing the business for the SMEs as well. So I'll address that in three parts.
Go for it.
On the first part is our brand promise. The whole brand promise around live more, bank less.
I like it.
Squarely sits with the fact that SMEs don't need to worry about banking as a problem.
Right.
By simplifying their journey, by leveraging on digital to really be transparent in their life, but yet do the job that a banking service is supposed to do. And thereby creating the opportunity for them to focus more on their business and driving growth in their business. So that's the starting point of how we think about our strategy. The second bit is about the segmented solutions that we have, whether it is based on growth stage of the company or in terms of startup as a key initiative. We tend to be very segmented and very focused around the solutions we create. So, for example, on the startup side, startups are able to open a banking relationship with us without ever stepping foot in the branch.
This is really important, by the way.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
The second bit is, of course, as a small business, you are looking for funding. We are able to offer solutions such as our quick finance that allows SMEs to borrow up to $50,000 without the need for any documentation. For example, where SMEs and startups operate in a multi-geography situation or business profile, we are able to offer cost-effective solutions that allow them to minimize their cost of FX, for example, through our Business Advance Plus card, which is a debit card offered on a multi-currency account.
Right.
Over and above that, SMEs are interested and always worried about their businesses. So we offer insurance solutions that allow them to protect themselves. So that's the whole piece around targeted, segmented solutioning, whether it is for a startup, for a growth SME. The third element, which is also very important, is the way we work as a company. So in DBS, we are now organized completely from an SME business point of view as managing through journeys. What it means is that in the past, you would have different teams doing different things, like a tech team doing their stuff of building stuff, or a risk team looking at risk in a certain way. The managing through journeys brings all these teams together in a single team, which are called journeys, and each multiple journeys form a performance cluster.
So, sorry, go ahead.
And using this journey and putting customer at the front of it really helps us to innovate and really drive the journeys that are useful and simplified for the SME. And not only that, of course, the way we work also incorporates elements of data, analytics, and AI that helps bring additional level of robustness in the offerings that we have, and stitch all of this through workflows that allows us to collaborate and participate equally across different teams.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Absolutely.
Do you mind if we do a little bit of this?
Sure.
Because I feel like there were three significant things that you mentioned. One is a startup can open a bank account without ever coming into the branch. This is a new thing. And for people that are running like brand new companies that are maybe unfunded or just getting funded, in the past, it had been very hard to actually open a bank account. What was the mindset change internally, right, for you as a team that said, we should actually allow this or enable it actually?
So this has been a journey across multiple years as we refine and fine tune the whole journeys around how the relationship starts with the bank. So it's important, again, back to the brand promise, right? So if I can't simplify that journey, a lot of time of the SME or the startup is spent worrying about, hey, when do I need to make an appointment with the branch? When do I go get there? And what
Who do I need to
documents
talk to? Who can
exactly
help me?
And if you eliminate that, it frees up so much capacity that allows the SMEs to really focus on what is important for their business.
Right.
So that's the main motivation. And then, of course, on our side, that allows us to be a lot more productive, a lot more nimble, and we can target them a lot better and help them a lot better.
Right. So we were talking a little bit about kind of a related topic before we started recording. This idea about like how going out is more of an experience, right, than it used to be, particularly when I was a kid. And I'm curious about if that idea has changed the way that you also deal with the products and services that you build for the SMEs and also the startups with whom you deal. This idea that it should be easier for them, which means that you have reference points from other companies that have been doing similar things in the e-commerce space, in the ride-hailing space, and saying, how can we build services that are seamless like that for our customers? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think in the past, I would reckon that a lot of banks and financial services used to be really product push.
Fair enough.
I think that change of mindset is really to go into a proposition-led offering,
Right.
where you understand the SME or the startup a lot better and offer them at the point of onboarding a lot better in terms of proposition, rather than saying, "Oh, take a payment service with us, or take a insurance product."
Right.
with
Here are
us.
the products we have.
Here's how we can combine it and offer you as a startup package, for example. And it's important. And as we build that out, it's a fundamental way of how we manage through journeys.
I always love talking to people that look like they're having fun at work.
Absolutely.
No, but I really mean it. And this idea of being able to take an institution that dominates in its space, but also to be able to innovate inside of it to change the way they deal with some very important customers has got to feel super cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I enjoy working. I mean, I've been in DBS for 14, 15 years now.
Right.
I was never a banker. I was in healthcare, for all you know. And then that switch was like, okay, let me try. But here I am 15 years later, I'm still going strong, and I love every day that I come to work.
I love it. I love it. Look, let's talk about funding for SMEs and even funding for startups, to be fair. In most cases, people think of, I just want to go to the bank and get a loan. But are there differentiated access to funding that maybe people should know about?
Yeah. So like I said, our approach is always going to be targeted and segment-driven, right? As a bank, we are also careful about our credit costs and risks that we take. So what we have done is really to look at it as a continuum of funding, where the needs of the SME or the startup changes over a period of time. So you could start them off with a simple working capital solution, quick access like the DBS Quick Finance, that allows you to come in, get a small loan, get it started. But as you build relationship with us and we have data on the transaction, on the financials that the SMEs have, we are able to give you more and grow with you on that along with their business profile. So, for example, as the SMEs become bigger and they want to inject capital into machinery, for example, we could offer you equipment financing solutions.
Right.
And because we have credible data and we know you a lot. So our approach is always along that continuum. How do we help the SMEs and startups to really thrive in their space and build off, transacting with us, operating with us, and getting to know us better, and us knowing them better as well.
When you talk to your teams about this idea of like growing, this idea of a journey, right? Because the bank itself is on a journey, but their clients are also on journeys too. And the idea is to kind of mesh those two journeys together so that they're symbiotic, right? Simpatico together, right? So is this something that you encourage people internally to do in a proactive way? Like, look, these guys are growing and they may be so busy doing what they're great at, they may not know that this is available for them to help their growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the beauty of managing through journeys. I mean, it is not about looking at a particular product line and say, me as a product head coming and saying, oh, this is a cash product that's going to work.
Right.
Rather saying the journey of the customer is this, here's how we want to proposition it. Now, what is also important, I would reckon, is also that it's not just DBS. You have to create that a community of services that allows that
Sure.
growth to happen.
Sure.
And we can talk a little bit more about our startup movement, for example.
Yeah, we'll get there in a second. And look, I have this philosophy that I call no one succeeds alone. You can be awesome at all the things you do, but there may be one or two things where bringing in a partner becomes really helpful, and we'll talk about that in a second. Can we talk a little bit about cross-border? So how do you help businesses grow? Because fundamentally, an SME has generally been, whether it's in Japan, in Indonesia, in Vietnam, or in Singapore and Malaysia, they've fundamentally been local businesses. But technology now kind of allows them to say, I can actually take what I do here and do it there, wherever there is. So how do you build the muscle memory to be able to then help these SMEs do that?
I think, again, 3 or 4 things that are critical to this success, right? One is, of course, our presence across the markets.
Sure.
I mean, Asia is a growth market. We've seen big growths in India and Taiwan, for example.
It's good to be here.
It's good to be here. And we are present in a significant manner in these markets. And that helps the SME base to rely on us as they expand to these markets.
Right.
The second bit is, how do we bring the community together? One such initiative is the Bridging Business Horizons. This is in partnership with Singapore Business Federation and supported by Enterprise Singapore, where we allow or empower the SMEs to look at really new opportunities, discover new opportunities, then develop strategies around it. How do you enter the market? What are the regulatory requirements? And 3 is deepen the network. So with this program, SMEs are able to avail this, matchmake opportunities, and then use that in their expansion mode. So that's fundamental in terms of how do we originate that cross-border needs. But more importantly, when we start looking at solutioning, that comes in as well. So we have launched something that allows us SMEs with the Business Advance Plus card to transact across 190 different currencies, and allows them to be mobile and in their procurement process without worrying about FX fees, and allows them to be cost effective. The other part of it is that what we should also look at is end-to-end. All these expansion carries risk.
Right.
So with the directors and officers insurance program, we are also enabling them to protect themselves if there are operational risks that are unforeseen, and that allows them to be covered.
So do bankers actually provide some kind of advisory role as well? Like, we know you're expanding to here. Here are the things that we've learned by helping other people expand to here. So be cognizant of that.
Yeah. So we do have the Bridging Business Horizon is one such venue where the advisory is there. They are able to access collaterals that allow you to say, okay, how do I expand to a market like India, for example?
Right.
And there are, of course, engagement programs that allow them to interact and understand the market a lot better.
Really interesting. So if upskilling is important for success, how do partnerships, we talked about no one succeeds alone, with companies like Chubb, help them manage some of these risks that we've been talking about, and other, like cybersecurity and other digital threats?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, cybersecurity is, ever growing. Threats are growing.
For sure.
So I think on DBS front, we are very cognizant of it and very invested in it. So all our digital solutions, we go through a rigorous process to ensure that it is safe, and we continue to be very proactive about it. At the same time, also provide awareness programs to our customers so that they can understand and track what sort of risks are evolving, what sort of phishing is coming through, what sort of social engineerings are happening. So
there's a lot going on.
A lot going on.
A lot going on.
But I think it's important also to provide that real peace of mind for the customer to ensure that if something were to happen, there is protection.
Right.
So with partnership of Chubb, who's a leader in cybersecurity insurance, we've been able to offer pre-underwritten plans at a very affordable rate that allows companies to be protected against such threats, and with a very good servicing team that allows them to get support when such thing happen. Right. And that's been a wonderful, kind of symbiotic relationship that allows us to help the SMEs grow.
I love it. You mentioned startups earlier. Let's dig a little bit deeper there. DBS has been very involved in nurturing the startup ecosystem. How do initiatives like ACE, right? What is it? The Action Community for Entrepreneurship, build into and work with DBS to amplify its capabilities in the startup space?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Absolutely. I think startups, again, form the bedrock of how innovations happen, how economies grow.
Right. And if you've been at DBS for 15 years, you've seen massive changes in the startup scene over the past decade and a half.
And Singapore FinTech Festival is one such avenue where that spurred up a complete imagination of the startup move.
Right.
So at DBS, I think we are very focused on enabling these startups effectively. So a few programs I'll mention. One is the DBS Skill Booster program in partnership with Skills Future of Singapore.
Right.
What it aims to do is to provide the necessary knowledge for the startups, whether it is in form of running a business, whether it's in form of data analytics, whether it's in the form of AI, to really understand and drive the business better. So that's one element of how we do it. Now, in August this year, we were very proud to have launched the startup movement. So I always say, you take a village to raise a child, but you take a community to grow the business, right?
Right. Same.
And it's not about DBS alone. So we are very fortunate to have this partnership with ACE and Visa to really try and drive ability to help the startups grow their business.
Right.
Whether it is in the form of knowledge sharing, in the form of access to funding through our solutions, whether it's as payment solutions, for example, or even insurance that I talked about. And that's been a big part of how we've been able to really drive up that momentum. One such unique thing that we've also been able to do is through the startup movement is our partnership and development with TikTok to really offer social media-based marketing programs that help our startups to advertise on the social media more effectively, leveraging of influencers who have been doing it and have been very good at it.
So you have to tell me this. What is it like for an incumbent banking institution to partner with a company that's fast-moving and almost like brand new, like TikTok?
We expect that we are also as fast as them.
Yeah, I don't mean it that way. You understand what I mean, right?
DBS
has been around for a while, very established. Everybody knows it.
Absolutely.
And there's a work mentality and ethos inside of the company that's not necessarily the same as TikTok. So how do you balance those two things together?
I think a few years back, credit to Piyush and the leadership team, our ethos within the organization was to think like a startup. That's
awesome.
one element of it.
But that's a change, and that's actually really cool.
Right. So how do we model a Netflix? How do we model some of those tech companies who are fast?
And that's what I meant before when I said, what are the references?
Yes.
And that's exactly what you're talking about.
So we had this program around Gandalf and looking at the Googles of the world, the Netflix of the world, and really emulating some of the thinking there. But more importantly, like the managing through journey is one element of as we bring this teams together.
Right.
We cut off bureaucracies and say, hey, I don't want to be stuck with several levels of approval, but rather move fast, right? And I think that's worked a lot. Now, what we also do is with TikTok and other social media platforms, we also learn. And we also see our marketing programs change dramatically. We have been able to use influencers in a way that they have been able to help shape our thinking around how their customers view product. So it's a fantastic learning opportunity and bring back into the journeys and say, how do we emulate that?
So I think this goes both ways, because an early stage company, even just a new company, doesn't know everything either.
Yeah.
So they work with you and think, we should emulate some of that stuff because that's going to make us longer term more viable and more sustainable as a company. And you can look at them and think, there's some new ideas there. Maybe we try that too. So it's not just a one-way street, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I was partaking in one of the TikTok events myself.
I wish I could go.
And I was feeling a bit old, right?
Why?
But then you start to think of it and say, hey, there are things that you and me do in your daily life, influenced by my teenage daughter, for example. And then why can't you apply some of this to the businesses? I mean, and it's absolutely fascinating how that really happens. And one of the observations, and I don't know, I don't have data to prove it or anything, but that I think typically you're taught in management schools that how you pivot businesses and reshape the business.
Right.
In an online world, that happens pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how these influencers who come in and share stories really kind of portray that to say, I tried this, didn't work. Influence.
I'll try something else.
Yeah. So as I reflect back, I'm a startup decades ago, right? I gave up on it too fast.
I love it.
Yeah. So I think what I've seen of this community movement or the startup movement is that the support structure that startups have today is a lot better and a lot more powerful as compared to when I did.
Well, it's way more organized. There's actually an infrastructure in place that actually helps. And to be fair, you're part of that infrastructure because back then, your piece of that infrastructure didn't exist.
Exactly.
Right?
And we are very proud that the startup movement hopefully can, spur that and, really accelerate the whole startup scene in Singapore.
Awesome. Look, we've covered a ton of ground. We could cover more, but I'm going to let you go. Ramesh Sankar, Group Head of Product Management, Corporate and SME Banking at DBS. You were awesome.
Thank you
so much
for having me.